Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
The hiatus is over. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry and Jay Croucher. Fellas, finally, summer has come to an end.
Sadly,
We're ready to roll. I see,
it was a great summer, though. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time. It
had a
looks
good
like
summer?
you had a good summer as well. Are you a Swiftie?
I'm officially a Swiftie.
Officially. You're not just
Officially
a father of
Swiftie.
Swifties?
My daughters desperately, I said to my daughters, do you want to, this is a true story. I said to my daughters, okay, we can either go for vacation for a week to Orlando, like Universal Studios and some of the other theme parks there. We can literally do a week in Orlando or a Taylor Swift concert. And they both unanimously, immediately, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, well, that was minus 20,000.
Right, exactly. So, I pulled what I think is my greatest dad flex of all time. I was able to get us tickets. I knew someone who knew someone.
Whoa.
And we were able to get tickets. Yes, and so here's me at the Taylor Swift concert. It's me. Hi, I'm the dad. It's me.
Is that a custom, or do they sell that for all the dads?
No. I mean,
Okay.
it's. I was able to get it. It's obviously Anti-Hero. It's a play on the song Anti-Hero.
Okay.
Which
You're
which is
singing
the
here.
chorus. I am.
You're really
right.
into it.
Yeah. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
And so
at tea
forth.
time, everyone agrees, right? and so I have to tell you something. Absolutely loved it. Officially a Swiftie after. And it was amazing. So my wife and I took my twin 11-year-old daughters, and what I did is I sort of did a crash course for the week. It's like Apple Music had like a Eras List playlist, so I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to listen to this for the next week. So I did a crash course. My wife did not do that at all. She's like, I just want to be surprised. I'm like, do you know any Taylor Swift songs? She's like, no. I'm like, okay. But anyway, what happened was we both had such an amazing time. First off, I ended up knowing a lot more songs than I thought I did. But even my wife, who didn't know a lot of the songs, she's like, everything is so theatrical. Every song's a production. Unbelievable costume changes, the whole thing. My daughters I don't think I've ever seen my daughters happier. You know what I mean? Like from the bracelets to the merch to the show to the pre-show to the app. Like the whole thing was just like a magical thing. Highly, highly recommended. Seeing Taylor Swift on tour if you get the opportunity to. Yes, I'm officially a Swiftie. She's great.
Unbelievable.
Well,
what a speech.
Yeah,
great.
really. What better sales pitch than that for Taylor Swift? We have to get into a happy belated birthday to Jay Croucher as well. Just yesterday.
Would you like me to take you to a Taylor Swift concert?
For my
I
birthday?
went for your birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I will.
Oh,
Look,
there we go.
Jay,
we
Wow.
got you something.
Yeah, happy birthday,
22
Jay.
years old.
22, Jay. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
What a prodigy
narrowly
you are.
missed by
To think
Stephen
all this betting
D'Agostino.
analysis came as a 21-year-old from last season.
Yeah. Well, you can drink.
Unbelievable.
You've been able to drink legally for a year.
You can cut into this at some point if you.
But do
if
we
you so
not
please.
have a lighter?
No, we are not.
Are we supposed to-
we are not supposed to light candles in the studio. I was told.
Oh, really?
I was told two things.
What are
before
all
the
these
show.
rules? No
I know.
drinking
One, we
on
have
the
a surprise
set.
cake for Jay, and two, do not light the candles. That's the two things I was told before
Well,
the show.
my instinct was immediately
Yes.
to try to burn everything to the ground.
Yes.
Do we sing Happy Birthday to Jay?
We can sing
Should
Happy
do that?
Birthday to Jay.
I'll do that.
Yes.
You want to do that?
Everybody
I mean,
involved.
because
Yes.
the last time you and I did a musical performance,
It was a hit.
It was awful.
smash hit.
We were off key.
It was in the top 100.
Right.
Yes.
We couldn't clap on.
Is
key,
this
but
our redemption?
It might be.
Yes.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Jay. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was
Happy
much
birthday,
more
Jay.
in key than my 2-year-old's rendition last
I
night.
bet.
Yes.
You want to know what I did for my birthday?
What did you do for your birthday?
Speaking of concerts, so for my birthday yesterday, my wife went to Beyonce and I stayed home with the kids.
Wow.
So my birthday gift was basically like
babysitting.
Political capital to be used later. It's like one of those baseball trades. Prospect
Favorite
to be
card.
named later.
Oh, yes. Player to be named later.
Exactly.
All time.
So that was I
With the
did.
wife.
Yeah. So she had a great time.
Rarely
with
seen
I was
Beyonce.
going to say, I've
Marriage,
heard Beyonce is also a great show.
Yeah. So right on. Right on.
And what did you do? And did your 2-year-olds get you anything? Did they cater to your needs? Did they like, oh, Daddy, let's watch like the New York Liberty or whatever? Like what?
Yeah, the Mets playoff long shot.
Yeah.
My 5-year-old actually got me, which I presume was with the aid of her mother, a book about 60 years of photography in the NFL. It was actually quite good.
Nice, there we go.
So I'm looking through photos of the NFL, 60-year history. It was great.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
It's not something you get in Australia.
No,
So there you go.
It's
You
true.
probably learned
A
something.
very American gift.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they wrote me a lovely card, and my 5-year-old, she drew a picture of a timer and put it in the card, which is kind of what I guess 5-year-olds do. They just got to pick out what's nearby and draw it. So it was beautiful. It was a nice day.
Is
Yeah,
it time
22
because you're
years
getting old, you're getting closer to death?
Yeah.
Yeah,
22.
at a
I'll be
ripe 22.
I'll be 23 next year.
apparently.
Your Jordan
Yeah.
year is just a year away.
According to that.
What a ride.
Yeah.
All right,
Indeed.
fellas.
All right.
Well,
Speaking of what a ride,
Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor is on currently quite the ride.
quite the ride. In the news, on Twitter, a lot of back and forth. It's as simple as this. Jonathan Taylor has requested a trade after meeting with owner Jim Irsay. And now, fellas, here's the latest of where we are in this saga. Reports of him saying he had a achy back, and the Colts might put him on the non-football injury list.
Yeah, they're claiming the report was that the achy back was due to non-football related
Outside the facility.
activities. Outside, right? Exactly.
which means they don't have to pay you.
That's right. That's the key.
Yes. So do not get hurt outside of here, Matthew Berry.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Just a
why
little
I
advice
don't do
for you.
physical activity. That dancing you saw me doing with Taylor Swift.
As far as it goes.
That's as far as it went. But meanwhile, then Jonathan Taylor himself on his official X account. I was going to say Twitter
Oh,
account,
boy,
but
yes.
now it's X. I got to get used to saying
Somehow.
that. But Jonathan tweets this out. 1, never had a back pain. 2, never reported back pain. Not sure who, quote, sources, unquote, are, but find new ones, with a puzzled emoji.
A lot to unpack here with Jonathan Taylor. Not only, obviously, a mega piece of the fantasy world we live in, a mega piece of the Colts offense that we presumably think will start a rookie quarterback.
And a friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast, obviously. This
Had
is
him on the
just
show last year,
This feels
yeah.
like the peak of the running back issue this offseason,
Yes.
which has been led by Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs. So we'll get into all of those here. But this one, Barry, has significant ramifications right now.
Well, it certainly does for a variety of reasons. Obviously, to your point, Jonathan Taylor is one of the top running backs going off the boards. I mean, prior to this news, I had him as running back 6, and I was probably lower on him than most in the fantasy football industry. He is a consensus top 5, top 7 running back throughout the fantasy football industry, and this is an offense when we all expect Anthony Richardson to be the starting quarterback of the Colts this year. Which means they're going to be run heavy. I mean, they already were run heavy, but they're going to be even more run heavy, I think, with Richardson under center than if Gardner Minshew were the starter. And so to take away Jonathan Taylor, who you could argue is the most dynamic piece of their offense. I mean, again, we haven't seen Richardson play in the NFL yet. Michael Pittman's a nice player, but if he's not the most dynamic piece, you don't have to go far down the list until you get to him. And now all of a sudden, he's not going to be there. It's a weird one. It's a really weird one, right? And if he doesn't play, if they trade him, if he holds out, whatever, like it's a massive blow to the Colts offense, to anyone that's done an early draft that's drafted Jonathan Taylor. Yes, a massive story.
Well, I think, first of all, I speak for all of us. If I don't care because I'm speaking for all of us. I think we're all team Jonathan Taylor here.
Correct.
And there's a tweet from Joe Dolan, which I think kind of encapsulates the situation on screen here at FG_Dolan. Jonathan Taylor, trade me. Colts, no. You're worth more than we'll get. JT, pay me what I'm worth. Colts, no. Which is basically the essence of the situation.
And then unnamed sources, Jonathan Taylor might have a back injury that he suffered not doing football stuff. Maybe he was cliff diving or something, and now we don't have to pay him. We might put him on the NFI list. And Jonathan Taylor's like, that's a flat out lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where we're at, right? Beyond that, and I think Dolan's tweet there, I think, Joe's great, does a great job. Joe's tweet is dead on, but then it goes beyond that. Whereas just now it's like, okay, now we're trying to now we're trying to mess with your paycheck. Jonathan's trying to get more money, and the Colts are saying, we're not going to give you more money. Now we're going to also take away what we actually do owe you.
Yep. Which is a mess across the board, and it would just push everything to next year if they were actually able to do that. He wouldn't accrue the year of service time.
That's the important piece here, right? Is that he gets fined, I believe, he can be fined up to $40,000 a day that he misses practice. And if he doesn't report, he doesn't accrue the year of service, and he can't be a true free agent next year. And maybe the market improves. So my guess is that, again, my guess is that ultimately Jonathan Taylor shows up to get paid and to accrue the year of service. The question is whether Jonathan Taylor goes out to practice one day, takes a handoff and just like, I'm feeling a twinge here, guys. I need to get in the tub. I don't know. Just it's not feeling great. My ankle's a little sore.
Yeah.
And he gets paid and he's just, I don't know. Like,
I think all
would
these
you do
guys,
that? Because I kind of would. The
Yeah.
way he's been treated, I sort of feel like that.
I think all these guys should look at what James Harden did in Houston and Brooklyn to get out of those situations where he was basically like, not playing defense, not playing hard. I will show up and I will put up some stats and you will not be able to claim that I'm not doing my job, but I'm not really doing my job. I don't know if that's going to be on the cards. I think Taylor, just the way he plays, it's harder to do that in the NFL. But at the same time, I don't really know how this ends.
Right, and that's the other challenge, right? Is that he can't, because the NBA is set up differently than the NFL, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because if pretend he does that, pretend he basically he's just like, I'm not feeling it. Like I got this tweak in my hammy and I'm just gonna be injured, wink and a nod, and we all know the real deal. But the fact of the matter is that he wants a big payday. And coming off of a year where he's been banged up, he's suffered with injuries throughout his, in his brief NFL career. He's had some significant injuries, and so going out to the free agency market in a year in which he doesn't play or whatever, if he doesn't have a big year this year, and then coming off last year, which I believe was his worst statistical year of his career, like that, it's hard to find an NFL team that's like, yeah, let me pay big money to that guy. So he's in a tough spot. Like, we are Team Jonathan Taylor, but I also feel like he doesn't have any leverage here.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is they'll just franchise tag him.
That's
and
the
just
thing.
go through that over and over again.
That's
So
the
it's going to
thing.
be years before he could actually really get out on his terms. So I think he's just going to be there. And the other thing, too, is that who is going to trade for him and pay him a market-setting deal after we've seen what has happened with Saquon Barkley, with Tony Pollard accepting his situation, with Josh Jacobs. Like, I just particularly because he came off a tough year for him. He wasn't the same guy that he was in 2021, I think just because of the injuries and because of his offensive line as well. So it's just a mess all around.
This time of year doesn't make it any better, too. Teams just spent the money. There's not extra money out there for a running back that wants to reset the market. But to really cap all this off, it feels like the Colts, specifically Jim Irsay, they're not making things better right now with Irsay's bizarre quotes out there that have seemed to have fractured the relationship with this team. This is a real tug of war, and I don't see a solution right now besides Taylor having to show up, but will he be the Jonathan Taylor of old?
I just want to,
You're talking about bizarre quotes. He's just like, Jonathan Taylor's like, hey, I'd like more money. And Jim Irsay, like, it doesn't matter if either of us die.
Here's the
And
exact
you're like,
quote.
right. And you're like, wait, what?
If I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, no one's going to miss us. The league goes on. We know that. The National Football League rolls on. It doesn't matter who comes and who goes, and it's a privilege to be a part of it.
I actually said the same thing.
That is Colts owner Jim Irsay, by the way. That's a quote from him.
I actually said the same thing about if me and Connor Rogers die tonight, will Peacock miss
Show-
us?
the show goes on.
Will Peacock.
Show goes on.
Yeah.
No,
it will roll on.
that's true.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And just in case you were wondering whether that's
I can imagine.
AI versions of us.
Yeah.
not even.
Yeah, nice.
Not even. We'll find another
Yeah, let's get
Australian.
another
We're
one.
good.
Yeah.
100%.
See what Hugh Jackman's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Is he available? I mean, listen, hey, Hugh, actors are on strike. Why don't
Yeah.
you come, SAG's on strike. You need a gig.
Yeah.
We
I'd
have
be
an
totally
opening for an
fine with that.
Australian.
We don't need my death for me to be replaced by Hugh Jackman. That's fine.
That's true. You know what? You could live, and we could still replace you
Yeah.
with Hugh Jackman. I like how this is all playing out. This is starting to play out. It's tough for me. I have to be honest with you. So a few things. First off, on some level, I love Jim Irsay because Jim Irsay is the reason. He's the one that sort of flicked the first domino to get Dan Snyder out of the NFL. He was the first NFL owner to come out and say, like, we need to look at this because this guy is ruining the league and, like, hurting our reputation, and we should really consider it. Like, he was the first guy to go publicly on the record. So he'll always have a place in my heart for that because I do believe Dan Snyder would not be out of the league if it wasn't for at least that. None of the other, everyone else was no commenting it. And Irsay was the one that was saying what everyone else was saying, was just like, the guy should not own a NFL franchise. But yeah, this one, I mean, you think about last year, the Colts, what a disaster they were, firing Frank Reich in the middle of the season. Jeff Saturday, hey, I saw you on TV yesterday. You want to come coach my team, even though you've never coached at any level, I mean, like they were just an unmitigated disaster last year, and now there's some optimism. New head coach, everyone's excited about it. They draft Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to be an absolute fantasy monster. And now this. I don't know. We've spent too long on this, so I'll just wrap it up by saying this. You're in a draft today. Are you drafting Jonathan Taylor?
I don't think so.
I'm not dealing with the headache. No way.
Yeah.
There's other options.
There's obviously a point in any draft where he would become value, but I mean, I think that's pretty far down.
I think there's a chance that he gets to the second round. You know, if you did a draft today, I think there's a decent chance he's in, mid to late second round. And at that point, I think it's worth, especially if you back him up later, with whatever, Zach Moss or whoever. Like I think he doesn't. I think it's unfortunate. Again, we're Team JT. But I don't think he has any leverage, and I think he's ultimately going to calm down and be like, you know what, I have to sort of grit my teeth and bear it because otherwise it's going to cost me too much money.
My best bet would be that he is on the field week 1 for the Colts. If I had to bet, yes, no, I would think that he is, just because all the kind of, the leverage indicators would suggest that that's just the way this is going to play out, and through gritted teeth he does that, but who knows?
Well, a running back that definitely felt that way, Saquon Barkley with the Giants. Barkley was expected to miss all of training camp before not signing his franchise tender. Everybody expected he'd be back for week 1. The Giants, fortunately, find some common ground here with Barkley, a guy that didn't have a lot of leverage. Unfortunately, they come to agreement on a 1-year, $11 million contract, which is basically they added $1 million of incentives based on the Giants' playoff chase for him to get. That's the difference between the tag number he passed up. So nothing crazy here, and Barkley now back in camp ready to roll.
And I love this. I love this for both sides. I love this for the Giants side. Great, they got a franchise player in. They got the deal done. He's happy. But also you think about this from Barkley's side, right? Barkley is still very motivated to have a monster season. And I say this as a Commanders fan, and it drives me crazy, but Brian Daboll is the real deal. I mean, last year he got there and he's just like, all right, let me try to figure this out. I don't have much to work with here. And obviously the Giants, exceeded expectations, right? I mean, Daboll was coach of the year, right? I mean, Vegas had him at 7 wins. They got to 9. They won a playoff game. Now Daboll's had a full offseason, right? He's now in the mix. I think Barkley, a healthy, motivated, very motivated Barkley in Daboll's system. The Giants offense, I think, will be better than it was last year. They've added some more pieces. I think he has a monster year. I'm at running back 4. I might be too low on him. I think he has a huge year. Remember, this is a guy who last year had a 17% target share among running backs, top 5 among running backs. He's going to be a big part of the offense on all 3 downs. Daniel Jones is back as well. Yeah, I don't see a downside to Saquon Barkley this season.
Yeah, he had a strange season where he came out of the blocks, unbelievable. He had the 164 yards, that massive touchdown in week 1 against the Titans. Had an awesome first half of the season. Then he really tailed off for about 5-6 weeks, but I think he was just hurt because he ended the season incredibly well. I think he started in that primetime game against your Commanders where he's doing the spin moves and getting the first downs to beat your Commanders. And then from there, he didn't get as much volume towards the end of the season, but he's extremely efficient. He had 4.8 yards per carry or better in his last 5-6 games. And so I think that we're going to see a more explosive Barkley. Also, I don't think they're going to need to run him 25 times a game. They'll use the passing game more. And that's the beauty of Daboll, is that he's not tied to one specific game plan. He will do whatever is most efficient for that game. And Barkley, I think, should benefit in terms of his efficiency.
By the way, they also got talent this year. I mean, you forget about how threadbare the Giants' offense last year was outside of Saquon Barkley. I mean, all due respect to the Richie Jameses of the world, but it was just like
Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah, the Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, it literally was wait, who?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were piecing it together, but now they go out and they get Darren Waller. I like Jalen Hyatt. We talked about him on draft night, Connor. You know what I mean? They have some pieces there, and so, and we'll see about Sterling Shepard, but Darius Slayton is back as well. Hodgins is back,
Wandale
right?
Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. I mean, Wandale Robinson got hurt, so he's hopefully back healthy. Somebody they spent a second-round pick on a year ago that they had high expectations. So I feel like, and by the way, Daniel Jones is back with a big contract, another year in Daboll's system. I'm very excited about Saquon Barkley, and I think Waller's going to have a big year, and I think that offense is going to be, a pretty good one.
They finally have continuity. I think that's the biggest
Yes.
thing. Year 2 of Dable, they just gave Andrew Thomas a well-earned massive extension, quietly one of the best left tackles in football. You think Evan Neal will be better on the right side in year 2, and all the weapons you talked about. Saquon fully bought in, fully happy, ready to roll for a full camp. Should be a massive year for him, barring health.
The only thing there is just you're not sure you're going to get the same year out of Daniel Jones from a production, from avoiding interceptions, also from staying healthy, which has been an issue in the past. I did place a bet on Saquon at 50-1 to an offensive player of the year. I think it's just too big. I think also there's a just with all the running back stuff, I think if a running back is in the mix, they're going to get such a push because of just the desire to reward a running back with all that's going on.
I think that's a great bet, especially when you think about, playoff team from last year, big media market.
Yep.
He's a big name star. He's a really personable guy. I don't know if you've ever seen him interviewed. People really loved. And I've interviewed him before. You meet Saquon Barkley, you become a Saquon Barkley fan. He's that guy.
One lingering franchise tag running back situation that there is no resolution in sight right now. Justina Anderson has reported Josh Jacobs did not report to camp as expected right now. Tom Pelissero from NFL Network said Jacobs was spotted boarding a flight leaving Las Vegas, and that the veteran running back. It's actually really funny. And that the veteran running back
Nick Cage before him
doesn't plan to return anytime soon. Here's one for you, like Vinny Chase after Medellin bombed.
Okay.
This is Josh Jacobs right now.
Hopefully it works out better.
He hasn't signed the tag, appears unwilling to play on it. Everybody's looking around right now, guys, and they're like, who's the guy, right? Maybe in the mold of Le'Veon Bell that's really going to stick his foot in the ground and say, no, I'm not even coming back for week 1. Do we think there's any shot Josh Jacobs is going to take that route, or is this the classic, they can't find me, if I didn't sign the tender for camp, I'll wait it out?
I think the chance is slim, but I don't think it's none. Do you guys know Josh Jacobs' story? Do you know, right? I mean,
slept in a car.
For people that don't know Josh Jacobs' story growing up, slept in a car, slept in multiple cars. The father, they didn't have a ton of money. They would have to go to motel to motel, and Josh has. I've interviewed Josh, and he's told me the story about how they would try to find motels that offered a free breakfast because otherwise he wouldn't eat for the day. So they would stay in the hotel, they were bouncing around. He used to, when he one story, he would get to Alabama and he wanted to sleep on the floor because he didn't know what it was too uncomfortable to sleep on a bed. It was too soft.
He's not used to it.
He's as tough a dude as there is, mentally and physically. And this is somebody that has gone through a lot of trials and tribulations and has earned every ounce of success, scratched and clawed his way to every ounce of success. It's well deserved in terms of what he has gotten. And if there is a guy with the fortitude and hey, this is something bigger, by the way, would not fault, especially given where Josh Jacobs has come from, would not fault Josh Jacobs saying I don't want to miss a dime. But if you're asking me, is there a chance this guy says, I'm standing up for running backs, I'm standing up for myself? Yeah, I think there is, because I think mentally he's that kind of guy that he just doesn't take bullshit. You know what I mean? And we're not live, so they'll bleep that. But seriously, he is that guy.
He's faced much more difficult situations.
Thank you. That's a much better way to put it.
But yeah, this is pretty low on the totem pole for Josh Jacobs' life in adversity.
Right, and it's not a team that, let's be real, it's not a team that has great Super Bowl aspirations. It's a team that's in a rebuilding mold here. And the other thing is it's sort of here. Devontae Adams sort of came out and sort of also said not sure I'm on the same page with what they want to do with Garoppolo and this offense. And so, it wasn't a great first year for Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas in terms of, wins and losses. And so, it's been a tumultuous kind of couple of years for that franchise. So, there may be more at play here than just money, but certainly I think Josh is looking around and saying, hey, they took care of Saquon. What about me? He was comeback player of the year. He won the rushing title. He was their offense last year.
He was the best running back in football last year. And I think that kind of goes a little bit under the radar because it happened on a losing team and a little bit of obscurity, I guess. But he won the rushing title. He had the walk-off incredible touchdown against Seattle, which he did with a strained hamstring or whatever. I don't understand all the injuries that he was dealing with. And also that team, to your point, Matthew, they're one injury away to a quarterback that gets hurt every single year from all of a sudden being in the mix for the number 1 pick. There is nothing behind Jimmy at this point. And so, yeah, I think with everything
except in the owner's box.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. With everything swirling around Devontae Adams as well, I mean, that team could go south.
It really can. And for a guy like Josh Jacobs, he's like, they're going to run me into the ground again because
Right.
he would be the offense. And like highlight your point, Jay, if Jimmy gets hurt and it was Brian Hoyer handing the ball 30
Brian
times.
Hoyer show.
Yeah, that's their backup situation.
Right, and so you're like, if you're sitting here going like, if you're Josh Jacobs and you're the team around Josh Jacobs and you're sitting here looking like, well, look, the market for running backs ain't there. Like, get what you can. Like, get Ezekiel Elliott still doesn't have a gig. Leonard Fournette still doesn't have a gig. Dalvin Cook still doesn't have a gig. Kareem Hunt still doesn't have a gig, right? So you're sitting here looking at like, hey, here's some big stars out there that haven't found a job yet as we sit here on July 31st. And I'm gonna go into free agency with, 600 touches over the last 2 years or whatever it is. No, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, again, he's franchise tagged this year, but he has not signed the tag as of yet.
Can't find him.
Can't find. Yeah,
He can miss camp.
he's
If
left
you don't
Las
sign the
Vegas.
tag, you can miss all the camp unfined. You show up ready for week 1, and then you're not ramped up, so they can't run you 30 times week 1. You haven't had all training camp. I'm sure he's working out, but it's different.
it is different.
So there's no motivation to show up
knows.
until week 1.
Yeah, I do. Oh, believe me. Believe me. I think I was gonna take a shot at somebody, and I'm not gonna do it.
Good restraint.
Yeah,
New year,
it's
new
early.
you.
No
shot. Yeah.
Listen, I'm a Swiftie now. I'm filled with love. Swifties
wow.
are all about love and
my
understanding
God.
and inclusiveness and everything like that. We don't judge us Swifties. We don't.
Oh, boy.
Us Swifties.
Us
I like
Swifties.
it.
What's your favorite era?
Of music?
No, of Taylor. What's your favorite
I don't have one. No. Nothing against Taylor Swift.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Red, Lover, I'm sort of in there. 1989 is pretty good too.
I watched The Bear, and Love Story was in that.
Okay.
Good scene.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
All
what I
right.
got for you. Yeah. Great show. Good scene.
You need to get up on your Swift.
I really got into
Apparently.
1989 for whatever reason. Out of the Woods is my favorite Taylor Swift song.
It's a great outlet. They're all great, by the way. They're all great.
Very talented.
Exactly.
Different strokes
Yeah.
for different folks.
Especially when you make sure you buy Taylor's version of any of this stuff.
So how about Joe Mixon?
How about Joe Mixon? Good segue.
Oh, man.
You haven't missed a beat either. It's
No.
like the midseason for you.
I'm shaking off the rust here.
Yeah, exactly. You're shaking it off. Nice. Well
See,
done.
you like that?
Yeah, pretty much.
I know my Taylor Swift.
Yeah, of course. How about Joe Mixon? So, I mean, by the way, that's another thing, right? Before we move on to Joe Mixon, real quickly, I just want to say, as we're talking about like those big name, that's the other piece here is that. So I think if you're the Colts or you're the Raiders or you're some of these other teams, you're looking around saying like, listen, if I need to, I'll just go sign Zeke or Dalvin Cook or Kareem Hunt or Leonard Fournette. Like, there are big name veterans that have been effective, highly effective at the NFL level. And all those guys had somewhat down years last year. Kareem Hunt had a really down year. But still, I mean, Fournette performed at a high level. So did Cook. So did Zeke. Like, he's not the Zeke of old, but he's still an effective NFL running back at this stage of his career.
Yeah, and the other thing is Kyle Shanahan's already got a running back, so he can't get any more. So that's what that spot is taken.
And
which
listen,
would be the spot otherwise.
before moving on to Mixon, but like it feels like Dalvin Cook to the Jets. I mean, we're taping this on Monday, July 31st at noon. So as of right now, there is no deal yet between Cook and the Jets, but that's looking, Connor, like
He was out at practice. I mean, that's a very rare visit. But it's all based on medical, right? He had to come in and do the physical. If he's medically fine, it feels like it would be a surprise if they don't find common ground.
right.
I mean, it seems like
Rodgers
Miami's
redid his contract.
they have a boatload of cap space. They want to slowly ramp up Breece Hall. That's the big takeaway, too. They don't want Breece Hall week 1, 25 touches. There's no interest in that for the Jets.
Right, and I also feel like, again, obviously very different players, but you think about Aaron Rodgers for 1 second here. Sorry to veer off here in a Dalvin Cook thing, but think about Aaron Rodgers. He's back. He's like, okay, I got Nathaniel Hackett, ran his offense in Green Bay. I got Cobb and Lazard. I got my guys from Green Bay. And what did we do in Green Bay? We had Aaron Jones. We had A.J. Dillon. He's like, they went more run heavy, more balanced. It wasn't all on 12, now number 8. It wasn't all on Rodgers those last couple of years in Green Bay. And so if they're sitting there, if Hackett and Rodgers are saying like, listen, you got Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook behind you. Now you got Lazard, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Cobb, you got your guys. All of a sudden, Tyler Conklin, like whatever. All of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, like I could see Aaron Rodgers really wanting 2 backs. And all due respect to Michael Carter, he ain't Dalvin Cook.
No,
right? And
not even
so
close.
that's a pretty interesting offense all of a sudden. If you've now suddenly got to deal with either Dalvin Cook or Breece Hall in the backfield, and you've got to deal with Aaron Rodgers and his weapons in the passing game, so it makes sense from a pure NFL standpoint. And when it does happen, assuming it does happen, we'll break down what it means fantasy-wise for both Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, likely on Wednesday's show. But I think that's interesting. But I do think if you are taking it back now, and I think the Patriots, whether it's Zeke or Fournette, both had visits with the Patriots. My sources are telling me that the Patriots do want somebody other than Ramondre. So they're going to sign a veteran. I don't know whether it's one of those guys or somebody else, but they will sign somebody other to complement Ramondre Stevenson in New England. So I think that'll be one of those guys landing there. But I think that what Joe Mixon did is he took a look around and said, I don't want to be a free agent like these guys searching for a job. We've got a chance to do something special here in Cincinnati. So he takes a pay cut. And if you're Josh Jacobs or you're Jonathan Taylor and you're sitting there going like, look, Saquon was able to eke out $1 million more, right? Mixon had to take a pay cut, and if you're Jonathan Taylor, Jacobs, ain't getting any love. So, I mean, I feel like and you've got big names that can't find jobs here. It does feel like Joe Mixon sort of looked around and said like, yeah, man, I'm, a little bit less money, but a chance to stay in a situation where I will be the bell cow, where we got a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yep, I think so. And it always seemed like it would be the final outcome for Joe Mixon to come back. And yeah, he'll be the guy that he was last year. No Samaje Perine there anymore as well for Mixon. Just last thing on the Jets before we move off of that, is Bam Knight just not in the picture?
I think he actually can make the roster over Michael Carter. Okay. I really do. Plays special teams. I mean, former All-ACC kick returner, did return some kicks for the Jets last year and very early in camp, but I think he's had a better camp than Carter from people I've spoken to as well.
And it does seem like, by the way, they just really like him.
They do love him. Bigger back. That kind of fits the mold. Carter, you got to realize it was a different area. Had an okay rookie season, not a good year two.
He was a fourth-round pick, right?
Fourth-round pick.
So not like a ton of draft capital there with Michael Carter.
I think it would. If they sign Cook, I think it would be Breece and Cook, and then Bam probably makes. And they're going to keep Izzy Abanikanda from Pitt, their fifth-round pick. So they'll probably carry 4 running backs. It's really down to Bam or Carter, and I would lean Bam right now.
By the way, thank you for saying that other guy's name.
Abanikanda.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't want to.
By October, you'll have mastered it.
Sure, I will.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about Joe Mixon, who, by the way, 5 straight seasons for Joe Mixon of averaging at least 19 touches per game. Last year, career high in targets, receptions, and receiving yards per game. The touchdowns were inconsistent for Joe Mixon, but the fact is, to your point, no Samaje Perine, and I guess we'll see, but you've got
Chase Brown.
You've got Chase Brown and
I think your boy from A&M is there too.
Travian Williams, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you get Travian Williams is there, and and so maybe they sign a veteran, but it doesn't seem like it. So I feel like Joe Mixon is going way too late in drafts. This is something I tweeted out, X'd out. I tweeted it out. It was Twitter when it was Twitter still when I did it. So yeah, this is something I tweeted out, and I would have threaded out. I am on Threads, by the way. Follow me there. I'm a very exciting follow. At Matthew Berry TMR on all forms of social media, except the Finest Life app, where I am merely at Matthew Berry. I will say what I tweeted out at the time. What I tweeted out at the time was that criminally undervalued in terms of ADP, and it'll go up somewhat, but I don't think enough. He's a guy that's going to get 20 touches a game on one of the best offenses in football. Period. End of story. Again, if you can say the Bengals want to go to the Super Bowl, and they ain't going to the Super Bowl with Chase Brown or Chris Evans or Travion Williams, all due respect to those guys. Unless there's an injury. You know what I mean? They're not going to be Zach Taylor learned his lesson in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, running Samaje Perine with it.
On third down, yeah.
Down on the line, I wouldn't have done that again, Zach. I think there's something just kind of unexciting about Joe Mixon. I think it's because he's the third biggest name on the offense. Certainly Burrow and Chase have him lapped, and you could argue T. Higgins does as well. So I think there's just that aspect. Also, last year he obviously had that huge 5-touchdown game, and outside of that, probably didn't. He was fine, but he didn't blow people away. He just doesn't have the star power of these other bigger names like Taylor and Saquon and Henry. But when you just look at the production, I mean, it speaks for itself, and that team is obviously going to score.
But I'm going to give you like a stat here. Last year, I think this would surprise you, but last year, Joe Mixon had the second most carries of any running back in the NFL inside an opponent's 10-yard line. So he was second in the NFL in goal-to-go carries. And again, he didn't convert a lot of them. You know what I mean? Because like maybe he got him on the 8-yard line or whatever, and just things happen. But touchdowns are somewhat fluky. He's not allergic to touchdowns. We've seen him score them in years previous. And to your point, like that crazy game, it was Carolina, right?
Yep.
The Carolina game where he had the 5 touchdowns. So I think Joe Mixon is a value this year. And like, you know, when my love-hate column comes out, good chance Joe Mixon's going to be on there, especially if his ADP doesn't rise.
Yeah, and he turned 27 a week ago. Happy belated birthday, Joe. Another end of July
Do you
kid
think Joe
like
Mixon
myself.
also had to watch children while his significant other went to Beyonce?
Yeah, most
I don't know if
likely.
Joe Mixon is married or not, so I don't, you know, but
Yeah, very much in the cards. Yeah, I think so.
But he probably had the same birthday,
Yeah.
as you. Yeah.
And the other thing with Mixon is that he is durable. Like he's played 14 games 5 of the past 6 years. His 6 years in the NFL. So, I mean, yeah, it's just not that exciting, but he just produces.
Our last complicated running back situation, and this one literally is complicated. J.K. Dobbins right now. John Harbaugh, his exact words of it is that this situation is complicated, but the team is working through it. Dobbins has been a guy that's been vocal about wanting a payday. He's also been a guy that's been hurt a lot for Baltimore since being drafted by the team. This is one where if he's not practicing, you kind of look at the situation and go, where is this one going to go? Is this unhappiness? Is this injury again? How do you even analyze a guy that's as confusing as Dobbins right now?
Yeah, to me, this is an avoid. This is a, and it drives me crazy because I have J.K. Dobbins on like 2 different dynasty teams. But like, as we talk about leverage, right? I mean, like, here's the thing that I would say, and I would say this to all the young people watching. You got to know, listen, you have to know your worth. And in all seriousness, you need to know when you can push it and when you can't, right? I mean, like, and so I'm going to use myself as an example.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No way.
Yeah,
You don't usually do this.
I know I don't like to do that, but every once in a while I like to talk about myself.
You sure you're okay with this?
Yeah, I'm going to, in all seriousness, when I was negotiating with ESPN last year, I was very aware that there were other companies that I would like to work for that were interested in my services. And so I was able to play hardball, and somewhat I could say, like, if you would like me to stay, this is what I want. You know what I mean? Because I knew that if we couldn't come to an agreement, and we ultimately didn't, obviously, that I knew that there were going to be places that, once I was a free agent, that I would be happy at. NBC is obviously where I chose, and it's been an awesome relationship. But if I didn't have any of that, if I sort of, hey guys, hey NBC, what are you thinking? And NBC was like, let's get back to you. No, but in all seriousness, then you kind of go, oh, what do you want me to do? I'll take that ESPN, you bet. You have to understand whether you have any leverage or not, right? And like, I'm always a big believer in any contract negotiation. Like, you can't bluff. Like, you need to be willing to walk away. Like, the only way it works is if you say, give me this or I walk, you need to be willing to walk. And in the case of J.K. Dobbins has no leverage at all. J.K. Dobbins has never played a game in the NFL career where he's gotten more than 17 touches. He is somebody that has had flashes, but has, for whether it's because Baltimore didn't trust him or because of their system or whatever, but he's never been the guy. There's always been Gus Edwards or somebody else. And I think if you're the Ravens and you're sitting there, listen, man, when you weren't available last year, we pulled Devontae Freeman off of his couch and we were able to get production out of him. We were able to, dust off Latavius Murray, and get they have gotten production from some of their guys, including Gus Edwards. And so you can sit here and say, like, if you're Josh Jacobs, yeah, you have leverage, man. You won the NFL rushing title last year. Saquon Barkley, you're the franchise in the face of the...
You're the offense.
You're the offense. You have leverage. Jonathan Taylor, I think, has not a lot of leverage, but at least a little bit, because Jonathan Taylor has a resume that says, hey, listen, when I'm right, I can be a difference maker in this league. J.K. Dobbins doesn't have that yet. He just doesn't have that yet. And now you're also, by the way, I mean, let me put it another way. If you're J.K. Dobbins, like, you're talking with Baltimore. Look what Baltimore did with Lamar Jackson. I mean, no, seriously. Lamar Jackson is a quarterback, a former MVP winner, right? You know, and like 26 years old, and they still were like, yeah, okay. See if you can find a better deal, Lamar. We're okay. We're good. Like, they played chicken with Lamar Jackson. And so, you know, I love you, J.K. Dobbins, but, like, you ain't Lamar Jackson. You ain't close to Lamar Jackson. And like, you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, like, again, the Melvin, so you saw it flash on the screen. We haven't gotten to there yet, right? But they signed Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon is fine, by the way. Melvin Gordon can still play. I mean, I thought last year he played when he got on the field, he played at the same
just the
sort
fumbles.
of. Yeah?
It's just the fumbles.
Yeah, I mean, right, the fumbles, but he's fine. Yep. And when we think about what's going to happen with this Baltimore offense under Todd Monken, their new offense coordinator, they're going to throw. They're going to throw. Look at what the Ravens did this offseason. They ultimately gave a big money deal to Lamar Jackson. They have Bateman. They draft Zay Flowers. They signed Odell Beckham Jr., who you know didn't come there. Beckham had offers. Beckham came there after talking to Lamar, talking to Todd Monken, talking to Harbaugh, and, you know, realized, okay, I'm going to be getting the rock. And they have Mark Andrews as well. Like, so this is the team that's going to be much more pass heavy than it has been in previous incarnations. And so they have Gus Edwards, they have Melvin Gordon, and so you're like, J.K. Dobbins, like, dude. And so you talk about wanting no piece of Jonathan Taylor. I want no piece of J.K. Dobbins until this resolves itself. Yeah. Because I still don't, even if he's back in camp, I think it's going to be a pass-heavy offense.
Yeah. Even when he was breaking off his big runs towards the end of last year, he was limping through them. Like, he just hasn't had the health at all. And the thing with running backs is, for all the discussion, I think it's unfair because there's this huge gap between, you know, what they're paid relative to other positions and how they are marketed as stars of the NFL. Because obviously, you know, you think of the Tennessee Titans, you think of Derrick Henry, and then you think of almost no one. There's a gigantic gap until you think of anyone else. But in terms of how running backs like affect the spread, I mean, when Henry in 2021, when he was on pace to win Offensive Player of the Year, he's on pace to float with 2,000 rushing yards again. He breaks his foot against Indianapolis, but no one knew that he'd broken his foot. Then all of a sudden, he got ruled out for the subsequent game against the Rams. The line moved half a point off of Derrick Henry. And I think it was from 6.5, 7, so maybe a full point in normal movements when you're not dealing with key numbers. But, I mean, whereas when later that season, Carson Wentz looked like he was going to miss a game and they were going to have to play Sam Ehlinger, the Colts, line moved a touchdown from Carson Wentz to Sam Ehlinger. So that is the reality of positional value in the NFL, at least according to the betting market. And so when you're dealing with guys like J.K. Dobbins, like running backs, they matter. They absolutely matter, particularly if you can add value as a receiver. Christian McCaffrey, hugely valuable. You know, you have outlier seasons like Jonathan Taylor in 2021, hugely valuable. But guys like J.K. Dobbins, like, there's just no leverage at that point.
Yeah, no. Austin Eckler, friend of the podcast, Austin Eckler, huge part of the Chargers offense.
Yes.
Like, and that, by the way, speaking of another guy, like, that seems to have gotten resolved a little bit, but like, that's another running back that also didn't get paid what he wanted, situation that looked a little bit dicey there. And so, and like, yeah, J.K. Dobbins, like, you know, read the room a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, look, guys that have had much more productive NFL careers than you are struggling. And so, you know, I don't know. I just think it's tough to invest in J.K. Dobbins at his current ADP.
Yep.
This should be the year Dobbins is setting himself up where he can have that kind of leverage, not doing it right now. That's
because I think the Ravens are going to be good, by the way.
Yes.
I think the Ravens are going to be good this year. And so, like, I mean, I think I'm really excited to see what Monken does with this offense. And so, like, if I'm J.K. Dobbins, I want to be a part of that. And now he's playing games, and, you know, what are you going to do?
Surrounded by the greatest to ever play the game, the new-look Jets take flight in Canton against the local favorite Cleveland Browns. The NFL preseason will start where historical careers end. It's the Pro Football Hall of Fame game presented by Verizon. Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC and Peacock. Matthew Berry, you will be there.
I will be there. I will be there live and in person. We'll be doing our show Wednesday. I'll be in Canton on Wednesday morning doing our show from there, and Friday morning as well. But yes, I will be on the show Thursday night, pregame, Football Night in America, our season debut. Very excited about it. And the other thing that I will say is one of the things I'm going to be doing on that show is announcing my 2023 Ride or Die.
Is it J.K. Dobbins?
It is not J.K. Dobbins. I cannot reveal it here yet, but I can officially reveal it is not J.K. Dobbins.
You have landed on someone, though, right? Or is this coming down to the wire?
Coming down to the wire a little bit.
Think about on the plane?
We've got some finalists.
Okay.
You know,
Justin Fields is the favorite in the betting market.
Me and the Ride or Die team have some. Justin Fields is on the list.
You have an analytits team now?
Yeah, I have a whole analytics team. I have a Ride or Die team. We're doing R&D. We're doing the whole thing. Yeah, market research. Lots going in. Any suggestions for Ride or Die? You mentioned Justin Fields. He's on the list. As is Anthony Richardson, also on the list.
That's a risky one. That's
It
very
is
high
risky.
variance.
That would be your
High variance.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing.
Big,
The other thing
bold
about Ride or
pick.
Die, though, Ride or Die is not like a sleeper.
Right.
Ride or Die is somebody that's saying, like, I believe in this player so strongly. I'm going to try to draft this player in every single league I am in. I believe in this guy so hard. I'm going to draft him, and I'm going to draft him ahead of ADP so I make sure I get him. Now, sometimes what happens is you're in a league like our show league, and in the very first round, somebody like, producer Alexa, grabs at the pick before you in the very first round. So, like, I didn't have Jalen Hurts in our show league, who was my Ride or Die last year, because of Alexa, who snaked him from me. So sometimes that happens. But when you have the opportunity and you're not snaked by, producer Alexa, then, yeah, that's what you do. So a Ride or Die it's not a sleeper. It's not like necessarily an unknown quantity. It is somebody that you think exceeds expectations, somebody that you believe in so strongly. Last year, my Ride or Die was Jalen Hurts, who I said at Football Night in America had the opportunity to finish as the number one quarterback in fantasy. He was going as QB8. He did, in fact, finish as the number one quarterback in fantasy.
It was a good one.
That was a good one.
That's in the Hall of Fame.
Austin Eckler was the year before he was like a second round. He's like a late second round running back. He finished as I believe the number 2 running back in fantasy that year.
It's a shame you chickened out last year and didn't go Allen Robinson, because that would have been a good one.
Yeah, Allen Robinson was on the list at some point last year, I will say.
I think me and Connor
any suggestions?
Firstly, I think me and Connor should choose Ride or Dies as we head into the season as well.
Sure.
Little baby Ride or Dies.
Yes, little Ride or Dies.
I would say that
I like that.
my two
Mini
leading...
Ride or Dies?
Rider coma, Rider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rider broken leg.
Rider broken leg.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not go further down that rabbit hole. But I would say the two guys who immediately come to mind for me are Toney Pollard and Justin Herbert, who I think are in that kind of zone of, look, they're obviously big names, but they're not being taken as the number one guy at their position or even top 3.
Right.
So I would say that those two guys, I could see either being the top guy at their position.
Both of those guys are also on the list. I like both of those. I like both those names. The only concern with Pollard is, do they sign a veteran?
Yes, and I would
Do
want
they
to
bring
wait.
back Ezekiel Elliott or somebody else?
That's why before Ride or Coma, I'd like some more time to elapse so I can see if
I
Toney
was trying to
Pollard...
think of like
Rider
a,
sprained ankle.
maybe not Ride or Die, but hitchhiker coma. Like, I'm trying to think
There
of
we go.
I was trying to think of what's slightly less than a ride, slightly less than a die.
Yeah.
I would
Hitchhiker
say...
coma,
That'll be Jay and I's. I have one for you, but it has to be a surprise because it's dropping on something bigger this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I would say, knowing you, spending more time with you over the past year, seeing how your sick mind operates, that Justin Fields is the favorite. I think Justin Fields is very much
Justin Fields has been bounced around. It's been suggested quite a bit. Yeah. So there's but by the way, there's at least one. Actually, there's 2 receivers on the list.
Okay.
I'm thinking about a receiver, and and there's another running back beyond Pollard that's on the list. So, possibilities, a lot of possibilities out there. And by the way, would love anyone tweet at me at Matthew Berry TMR. Sorry, exit me, thread at me at Matthew Berry TMR with or Instagram at me. You can post on Instagram who you think my Ride or Die should be.
let's get into some injury news. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo reports Week 1 should be realistic for Joe Burrow after he suffered that scary-looking calf strain in camp. That video was everybody thinks the worst right away. Fortunately for Burrow, he avoided the worst. Should be ready for Week 1. It feels like Burrow, though, misses camp every single year at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it hasn't mattered, right?
Yeah,
4,000
He's still
passing
great.
yards, 30 touchdowns each of the past 2 seasons. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, the only other 2 people that can say that. He's my QB4. Until we know that he would miss time, he's going to stay at QB4. But certainly very concerning, very, very concerning when when they were bringing out the cart.
A lot of Twitter doctors up and about.
Literally. People branded
that's
as
an
Twitter
Achilles. That's a torn
doctors.
Achilles.
Yep, career's over right away.
Seems like he will be fine. Last year he didn't start off well, is the one thing, because he did miss camp, but he had 5 picks against Pittsburgh in week 1.
And the Jets lost, which in retrospect doesn't look as bad as it did back then. But in the beginning of the year, right, they lost to the Jets.
No, they beat the Jets.
They beat the Jets in week 3. They lost to the Steelers?
They also the Cowboys as well.
Cowboys. I thought
without Dak Prescott.
did they barely beat the Jets beat there was the Browns game that I was thinking about. Okay, sorry. Anyways, we see video here. It all runs together for me. This is that's him holding his calf.
Already wearing the calf sleeve, too, while this happened.
That's the cart. That's everyone else looking on, very concerned. Not good.
I would say, and I'm going to say this repeatedly until the season starts, if you bet on the NFL, you need to have a Patrick Mahomes MVP ticket at plus 700, because this is just another reason, this Burrow thing, why it's just a ridiculous price. Plus 700 means that he's like a 12% chance to win MVP. He's going to be the greatest player of all time, Patrick Mahomes. It's ridiculous. He should just be plus 200 every single year, and that's my ride or die bet. Patrick Mahomes plus 700. It's just absurd. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
He's going to win every second year for the next decade. Anyway, Patrick Mahomes.
All right,
MVP.
I like that. I like that bet. I like that bet.
In some more positive injury news, John Lynch, 49ers GM, said Brock Purdy, who's been dealing with the elbow injury, has been cleared to practice and is ready to go. A lot of people after the signing of Sam Darnold and Trey Lance is still there were wondering if Purdy would be ready to start the season, but he's already throwing in camp.
Which is great news. This is great news. I mean, again, when he took over from Week 13 on last year, Brock Purdy was the 10th best quarterback in fantasy. I think people don't realize this. You know, he averaged over 17 fantasy points per game. He played at least he had at least 2 touchdown passes in every single game he played, where he played the majority of snaps. All 6 of those games, obviously, he went undefeated. Jay and I both think that Kyle Shanahan gets screwed out of Coach of the Year because of that. Shameful. Again, everyone was like, Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni went 0-2 with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
He
went 6-0 with the last pick in the draft. I know they've got a lot of good players on that team, but still, that's insane. Although, I don't know if it's because I'm Australian or something, but I don't understand how everyone has just moved on from Trey Lance. When this time last year, we were talking about Trey Lance. Is he going to be the next Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes MVP out of nowhere? He's the 3rd pick in the draft. He had all the hype in the world coming into last season. He plays in a monsoon against Chicago in week 1. Then he breaks his ankle week 2. Doesn't throw it up, and now he's just done.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Explain it.
Here's the other part that I don't understand. No one's talking about Sam Darnold. Wait, again, we joked about. No, hang on. We joked about the report, he's got the prettiest pass of any 49 quarterback ever. We're like,
that's right.
Did Steve Young and Joe Montana play for different quarterbacks? Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick threw a great ball.
Kaepernick threw a great ball. Anyway, that said, hyperbole aside, the fact of the matter is that Kyle Shanahan won with Jimmy Garoppolo. He won with Brock Purdy. What makes you think he can't win with Sam Darnold, who also was a top 3 pick in the NFL and has had some success? He's also had some bad moments. I get that. On some bad Jets teams, and Carolina was a mess as well. But if Sam Darnold gets the job and is good in a Kyle Shanahan offense, would that shock anyone? I don't think there is, because Connor, you're the guy to talk. But when Sam Darnold was drafted as high as he was, no one was like, wait, that guy? Everyone had him as the number 1 quarterback.
But he was going over Baker that year.
That's right.
Until 2 days before the draft.
Right.
The talent is never the problem with Darnold. I think what's the issue is always the mental, and Kyle Shanahan's greatest gift is limiting the mental mistakes of a quarterback. I mean, he did it. Purdy had the same issues at Iowa State. Purdy was a 4-year starter at Iowa State, and turnovers and decision-making were a massive problem. He plays for the 49ers, and everything is schemed up for him to succeed. There's no reason to think. Darnold can at least be capable in that offense, I think is what we're looking for.
On that as well, I will say, I had a big bet on Kyle Shanahan at 40-1 to win Coach of the Year. So I was riding or dying, ultimately dying with the 49ers every single game. I think watch every single snap of Brock Purdy play. He does not fill you with confidence when you watch him.
Pretty wild ride.
He makes some excellent throws, and overall it was great from Brock Purdy. He makes some crazy throws as well in a bad way. So I don't understand how everyone is just anointed.
He definitely got lucky.
Yes.
A few, like in terms of interceptions that should have been and got dropped and everything like that. He definitely got lucky. Now, in fairness to Brock Purdy, he was a rookie, and the third string rookie, he probably didn't get a lot of reps, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, we're a playoff bound team, and now you've got to start every snap. So he's had a whole offseason to absorb the playbook, which is complicated. Kyle Shanahan's, I remember Matt Ryan talking about it took Matt Ryan, who's probably a borderline Hall of Famer, 2 years to understand Shanahan's playbook. So I want to give Brock Purdy a little bit of...
For sure. He came in a very difficult situation and was very solid from the get-go.
Right. He didn't, again, went undefeated. He didn't lose it for them. But I saw some tweet from somebody, and I forget who it was, so I apologize, not me, but the tweet was like, listen, you guys aren't prepared for the fact that Sam Darnold's starting a Super Bowl this year. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like that's not outside the realm of possibility. Like, I don't mind a late round draft. If you're in a two-quarterback league, in a deep two-quarterback league, I don't mind a last-round flyer on Sam Darnold. I think if I had a draft today, I think you're drafting Brock Purdy as the starter for the 49ers. But I agree with you, Jay, that I think your point is like, I don't feel like this is written in stone. Like, there's definitely no way that somebody other than Brock Purdy is starting week 1 for the Niners.
Yeah, they're just a weird team. I feel like the Niners might be the most insulated team against injury ever because they've got 3 quarterbacks in. And it's like, well, if they got either of those 3 guys, I'm sure they'll just be fine.
When someone gets hurt, they don't drop off a cliff like everyone else.
Yep.
The only pushback I would say there is that offense with Trey Lance is really different than that offense with Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold.
Yep.
And they've had the idea when they drafted Trey Lance was we want to go to a mobile quarterback and do a lot more RPOs and everything like that. And then they because of injuries, whatever, it's just like, all right, we're back to the,
drop back
three
passer,
step, 5-step, 7-step, drop back passer, pocket passer. And that's what Purdy is, and that's what Garoppolo was, and that's what Darnold is. Darnold's a little bit more mobile, but and so that offense is currently built with, a drop back passer in mind, and candidly, the versatility doesn't come from the quarterback, but from McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
Staying in the division with Seattle, they're already dealing with multiple running back injuries. Pete Carroll had this to say on both Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet not practicing. With Kenneth Walker, he's sidelined with a groin injury. With Charbonnet, he's out indefinitely with a shoulder injury. Jay, they've spent a lot of draft capital in this duo. Kenneth Walker, a second-round pick 2 years ago. Zach Charbonnet, a second-round pick this year. I mean, this doesn't sound like these guys are going to be back really anytime soon with a full workload.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like they're going to be okay for week 1 at this point, though it's not exactly clear. The one thing I'll say, if I was to tell anyone who's start betting on the NFL, the one thing that you need to know is that Pete Carroll lies about injuries. And you just have no idea what is going to happen with the Seattle Seahawks week to week. We've got guys who are a week away and then you don't see them for 2 months.
Right.
You've got guys who are supposed to be fine and then they're just not. So I don't know what to read into this because I have no idea whatever is going on in Seattle.
Do you ever see the old, you guys are much younger than me, so maybe you haven't, but did you ever see the old Monty Python movie? I want to say it was Life of Brian, where it's just the famous scene where he's like, cuts up the guy's arm. All right, fight's over. What? No, it's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, it's flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound. Your arm's cut up. Let's go. And I believe that scene was written by Pete Carroll. Yeah. Like, in all seriousness, because it is, you are absolutely right. Like, somebody could break their leg, and Pete's like, he's going to be limited in practice today. But, he should be back out there. Like, Pete's the most optimistic of any head coach ever. And yes, and will flat out lie about injuries. Like, just doesn't care. Like, so hard to say here. It'll be interesting to see if they sign a veteran or not. Like, because there's certainly a number of them out there, and you could see them doing it. If they don't, and the Charbonnet injury is more serious than it's being led on, Ken Walker is massively undervalued because this is going to be a good offense. This is going to be a good offense, and the only reason that Ken Walker's ADP is as low as it is, he's currently my running back 18, is because we expect Zach Charbonnet to get at least 35% of the snaps
a lot
here.
of pass game work.
Right, if not more. Right now, as you see the depth chart right now, it's DJ Dallas, who's much more of a third down back, a smaller guy, and Kenny McIntosh,
who was borderline a receiver for Georgia. He's a pass-catching running back only.
Right.
Rookie, undrafted rookie or late-round rookie.
So other than Walker, if Charbonnet's out for a decent amount of time, they don't have a between-the-tackles guy, really.
Not at all.
And again, Pete likes to run it. So I wouldn't be surprised. I could see them, that'd be a place that Zeke makes a lot of sense. If Charbonnet is out for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of chatter on Twitter, X, whatever, about Kenny McIntosh and DJ Dallas. I would not be drafting those guys. No. These injuries don't seem serious enough. The talent upside doesn't seem significant enough for those two that I think you just got to wait it out. And Ken Walker is the guy who, even though he's hurt at the moment, he seems the most likely to benefit from this situation.
He's somebody else that played hurt last year, too, if you remember. And I remember, I think it was a Thursday night game against San Francisco where we're like, he was hurt and he didn't practice all week and it's a short week turnaround, and still against that tough Niners defense, grinded out, had a decent game, much better than he had any right to on no practice, less than 100% against the Niners.
And he was hurt almost all last summer, too. So this is just kind of the Kenneth Walker experience right now. Over in Denver, NFL Network's James Palmer reports Javonte Williams, who's coming back from significant knee injury, will avoid the active/PUP list to begin training camp. Williams, who tore his ACL, has been cleared for contact, but is unsure if he will play at all in the preseason, Barry.
Yeah, and just the fact that he's going to avoid the physically unable to perform list doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be playing week one, that he's going to get a full complement of snaps week one, that he's going to be any good week one. Again, we've seen this. We've seen this from Dalvin Cook. We've seen this from Saquon Barkley. We've seen this from running backs that, after a massive injury, don't have that spark immediately. Even if they're out there, it feels like they're running in second gear. They're just not, they're just sort of running a little bit slower. They just don't have that burst, that explosiveness here. And so I could see Javonte Williams being a monster down the stretch, just being a fantasy difference maker down the stretch. But I still think, and I see so many people on X sitting here going oh, Javonte Williams, he's back. And I'm like, I'd much rather invest on Samaje Perine at ADP than Javonte Williams right now. I'm buying the Denver offense, by the way. I do think they bounce back. I'm buying a bounce back from Russ. I'm buying a bounce back from that offense. I think they're going to be good. But, Perine, who's going in the 30s, to me represents a much better value than Javonte Williams, whose ADP will continue to rise as, positive reports from camp emerge.
Yep, Perine right now going as running back 37 after guys like Charbonnet and Antonio Gibson, A.J. Dillon, David Montgomery, these types. I think Perine's got a decent amount of upside, certainly at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I have Javonte Williams at running back 31. Just to, and I'm not moving off that. I think he's a number 4 running back to start the season, and then I think over the second half of the year when he gets back to full health, then he'll be back to the guy everyone remembers from his rookie year.
Breece Hall also working his way back from a torn ACL last season. Robert Saleh said he looks really good. Saleh also said he expects Hall to return in a couple of weeks, as in playing. They've had Hall measuring really well in the GPS since spring, so he's been sprinting, but actually playing in a couple of weeks. The Jets are saying that he's going to be ready for week one, but then you have all the interest in Dalvin Cook that kind of signals how much of a workload are they actually going to put on Breece Hall the first month of the season?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're the Jets guy, so you tell me on this how much of this is. But I do think, again, I think the interest in Dalvin Cook is also just you're a dynamic player, and we're obviously pushing all the chips in for this year. And so if we can get, all due respect to Michael Carter or Bam Knight, if we can add you to the backfield with Breece Hall, even a fully healthy Breece Hall, that's a good thing, right?
What's the first half of the season? What's the maximum carries Breece Hall is going to get in a game? Is it 14? Is he going to top that in the first half of the season?
Right, and they like to throw to him so much, and that's going to affect the actual touches workload. I think they care about what Breece Hall looks like end of October to the end of the season, not what Breece Hall looks like in September. And yes, their schedule is very hard out of the gate. There's no denying that, but if you can bring in a veteran that's handled a large workload like Cook, it allows you to use Breece at your own pace to start the season. So they're saying all the right things. Brees is hitting metrics, GPS-wise, speed-wise. His game's built on speed that are very promising. But the history and science of ACL injuries tells us that you shouldn't expect what we saw peak Brees Hall in September or maybe even the beginning of October this year. And they want to protect the young player from himself.
Yeah, no, which makes a ton of sense. And so I feel better about Brees Hall than I do Javonte Williams in terms of where they are in their rehab, in terms of where their injuries happened. But again, yes, you'd sort of be like, I would not want to go into the season needing to count on Brees Hall as, one of my top 2 running backs. You're probably going to have to draft him there, which makes me a little bit nervous.
That's the tricky part.
That's the tricky part. But I will say that I think, assuming Dalvin Cook signs, that will depress Brees Hall's ADP to where it should be.
Exactly. I'm with you all the way on that. Over with the Chiefs, Andy Reid said Kadarius Toney underwent knee surgery. Chiefs beat writer Pete Sweeney said on the Roto World Football Show that Toney would likely be sidelined for weeks, not days. The Kadarius Toney experience, Jay, rolls on.
Yeah, just out on Kadarius Toney completely. I mean, it's just something every second or third week with Toney. It just seems like he is a guy, as we look at his injury history, which is just a litany of injuries, mainly to every part of his body, really. Shoulder, hamstring, ankle, quad oblique, knee, hamstring, knee. So I just don't think that he's a guy that you can rely on if you draft him. I think if you're looking at high upside receivers in Kansas City, I'd be much more interested in Sky Moore.
I hear you on Sky Moore, and we've seen some nice camp moments from Rashee Rice,
absolutely.
Justin Watson as well. Richie James is apparently having the greatest camp of his life, and it is worth noting that last year the Chiefs were second in the NFL in slot targets. But I mean, honestly, guys, I think it's super weird. Like, if Kadarius Toney were healthy, I'd be interested in him because I do think he's a special talent.
Yes,
he needs to stay on the field, but in that offense, they would have created some touches for him. But listen, I think that this upcoming season, I think there's going to be 3 games where MVS, and we haven't even really seen MVS out there, right? There'll be 3 games where MVS has a monster game, right? And there's going to be 4 huge Sky Moore games and 1 great Richie James game. And it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts when you play the Chiefs, but it's really going to be, for us in the world of fantasy football, it's going to be Mahomes, it's going to be Kelsey, it's going to be the 2 running backs, and that's sort of it.
Yep.
Unless there's going to be significant injuries or we see we feel really good about they're playing a team that really gives up a ton of slot and slot receptions, and Richie James has been getting a lot of work, and whatever. Kadarius Toney is out, and it's hard to really pick any one of these guys. I'm with you. Sky Moore has the most upside.
Yeah, it's the most interesting.
Outside of Kadarius Toney, I've always been, sort of semi-obsessed with Justin Watson, who I feel. What? No,
it's one of your boys.
He's on my dynasty. He's on a dynasty team of mine, a crazy deep dynasty league that I have. I feel like every time he gets on the field, he makes a play. He just can't get on the field. Because they have 8 billion guys.
How is Brees Hall going before Travis Etienne and Joe Mixon in drafts? To me, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's very inflated.
That's insane.
People are morons.
His ADP has been way too high. Yeah. And I love Brees, but it's just it's
that's
the
crazy.
longevity.
He's going the same spot as Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah. That's completely insane.
Completely insane.
Okay.
People are morons.
Sorry. Let's move on.
Not you watching at home.
Nobody watching
Other
this.
Other people, the people that don't watch this, they're the morons. You guys.
Barry, you mentioned the Chiefs running back room. Isaiah Pacheco said he'll absolutely be ready for week 1. This is after sustaining hand and labrum injuries in the AFC Championship game last January. Pacheco has been described by coaches and beat writers as iffy to start the regular season, and the Athletic's Nate Taylor confirms Pacheco is expected to be the starter and handle an increased workload.
Yeah, be great. and then Jerick McKinnon will be his. But I think people forget how much Pacheco during the playoffs caught the ball more than I think people expected him to. And so I have Pacheco at 27, again, just because I think McKinnon's going to be more involved. But I like Pacheco. I like that offense. I like, to your point about your favorite bet is Mahomes at plus 700 for MVP. What are the odds of the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl this year again?
Yeah, plus 600.
Yeah, that's a pretty good bet. Again, I don't know that they're going to. It's hard to repeat, but the Chiefs are going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL, and Pacheco and McKinnon are both going to be, pretty good this year.
Isaiah Pacheco had 15 carries in the Super Bowl. So that tells you what they think of him. Letting him run 15 times in the Super Bowl when they were pretty much losing the entire game as well. So yeah, I think he's got a lot of upside.
I mean, remember, this is a guy that I think he was a 7th round pick out of Rutgers, right?
Yeah, very late.
Yeah, I mean, very, very. So not a lot of draft capital. They already had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it took him a while to sort of trust Isaiah Pacheco. But over the final 9 games of last year, from week 10 on, Isaiah Pacheco was top 5 in the NFL in rushing yards. And oh, by the way, he plays for one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. So I might be too low on. I have Pacheco at 27, and I think I'm too low on him.
Yeah, I think people are also. I know McKinnon he had great fantasy stats from last year. He also had 8 receiving touchdowns in the last 6 games of the season. That is completely unsustainable.
Correct.
So I think that is maybe suppressing Pacheco's perception a little bit.
Yeah, Pacheco or McKinnon. And this is coming from somebody who has McKinnon in Dynasty and not Pacheco.
The show is back, and so is the
I am the Dynasty champ, though. I am in that league.
Well done,
I did win.
Very good.
I just want to bring that up. I did. I have won 2 out of the last 4 years.
Congratulations.
And so is the
too.
Roto World Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Speaking of experts, stay connected throughout training camps with updated player rankings, team profiles, and projections that will help you win your fantasy league. Go to NBCSports.com/draft guide and use my code, Barry20, your code, Barry20, for 20% off at checkout.
You can also use the promo code Connor10 if you would like 10% off your guide. But if you would like 20% off of this bad boy, use Barry20.
That's because my customers are rich
Right.
winners.
Croucher
Or
100.
J5. If you only want 5%, if you flip through this at the airport or whatever, and you're like, this is so good, I don't want 20% off.
the international
I only want to
discount
give
code.
5% off. You can use promo code J5 or Connor10.
Yeah.
But if you want 20% off, use Barry20. Very heavy. These are the only ones that are left, by the way. These we only have.
We'll ship them
We'll ship them to you. But it is chock full of fantasy goodness. And do you see? Can we get a? I'm going to camera 1 here. Can we get a close up here? Camera 1. Do you see what it says here? Matthew Berry's 100 Facts. That's right. There'll be a version of 100 Facts on rotoworld.com, on the brand new rotoworld.com. But if you want a sneak peek, if you want the early version, if you want to get in, right here in the Roto-World Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Tony Pollard, Jay's pick for one of the nominees for Ride or Die. He might be Ride or Die. Last year, Jalen Hurts was on the cover. Last year, Jalen Hurts was my Ride or Die. Maybe we'll see. Haven't decided yet. Still, gotta find out all the R&D. Got to do the market research. Got to hear what the focus groups think. We got a lot. It's a lot. It's a whole production. The spreadsheets.
You got to fill the spreadsheets.
You got to talk to everyone.
Football
but
is played on Excel.
Imagine if that team was put to curing disease or something. It'd be
the way,
unbelievable what they could achieve.
But it's also, by the way, look, it's it's color. Look, it's color. It's not this cheap black and white. It's heavy. There's some heft to it. By the way, you know what you could do? Here's what you could do with this. Roll it up. If you're going somewhere where you might sit down and read for a while.
Yes, portable.
Portable. Goes with you right here. And by the way, of course, when you buy the mag, there's also, I believe there's a code. You obviously get the access online as well at rotoworld.com. Will be updated constantly throughout the preseason. So if people are like, a magazine, what do I need a magazine for? Won't it be out of date? Oh, no. No way, Monfrey.
Yeah.
Is that a phrase? I don't think so.
Monfrey. Yeah.
Monfrey?
Yeah.
But no, Sir Monfrey. What's the phrase?
Oh, boy.
We're going down the French rabbit
I'm
hole.
asking. You're an international.
Yes,
you're
you're French,
I can't help
apparently.
you with you. Can't help you with that.
I don't know. I'll figure that out. Anyway, a lot of hard work went into this by a lot of very smart, talented people. You should buy 4 copies. One for yourself and one for 3 people that are not in your league. All right.
Great sales pitch. Good curveball. You
I'm
said
just saying,
you could roll it up and then
not
you
in
just
your
tucked it
league.
under
Oh
your-
Wondering
like
where
if
I was going.
Yeah, me too.
you're if
roll
you're
it
going to
up.
be sitting down somewhere for a while, this is great. Great to have with you.
I can confirm no Sir Monfrere is not a saying.
Google goes absolutely not.
right.
Rejection.
Fair enough.
Before we close out the show today here, guys, a list of some notable
By the way,
signings.
look, we made the bold choice on the Chiefs page. We made the bold choice of using
Patrick
Mahomes'
Mahomes,
picture.
the greatest, potentially the greatest football player of all time.
A little T-Law, by the way.
Oh, another
Speaking of
risky,
a potential
risky
ride
pick.
or die candidate.
Oh.
Little
right.
T-Law.
Were you thinking of Au Contraire Monfrere?
What?
No.
What is it?
Au Contraire
Oh,
Monfrere?
contraire mon frère. That's what I was thinking of because I knew it rhymed.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
As opposed
Au
to no,
contraire-
sir.
No,
No,
au
sir.
contraire,
No,
mon
sir.
frère.
Well, it wasn't even
No,
Mon
sir,
Frere
Mon frère.
initially.
No way,
Mon
Monfrere.
frère? Well, because I knew it rhymed.
No way,
no way,
Mon
mon
frère.
frère. Because I knew it rhymed. Au contraire, mon frère. But I knew it rhymed, but I
man.
couldn't think of it in the moment.
No
so I was just
way,
like,
mon
all right.
frère.
Well, and I'm seeing it in my mind spelled like F-R-E,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like,
You
maybe
flipped the
it's
accent
no
the other
way,
way.
mon frère.
No
People
way,
have gone
Mon
to prison
frère.
for
By the
less
way.
than no
By
way,
the
Monfrere.
way, let's not immediately dismiss no way, mon frère.
I'm going to immediately dismiss
No, I know, guys. Let's research it. Let's workshop it a little bit.
Get the
I
spreadsheet
think no
team on
way,
this
mon
one.
frère might stick.
it. Yeah, Frey isn't
Yes.
a word. Okay.
No way, mon frère.
Okay.
You know what? I'm not going to make it a thing.
James Robinson?
I'm going to make it a thing.
James Robinson.
Jay Croucher, I'm going to make it a thing.
No way,
Mark
mon
my
frère.
words. Mark my words. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make no way, mon frère a thing.
Before we get out of here, some notable signings. The Giants
Notable in
signed
quotes.
James Robinson, formerly of the Patriots, very short stay with the Patriots. The Ravens signed Melvin Gordon, formerly of the Chiefs, to a one-year contract. Giants signed wide receiver Cole Beasley, of course, was with the Bills. The Bills signed Andy Isabella, who was with the Ravens, and Jimmy Graham just appears out of nowhere back with the Saints. Wow,
So-
what a list.
Right. So I will tell you, the only really, truly interesting one here is Melvin Gordon. Obviously, as we talked about J.K. Dobbins, again, we've seen the Ravens, whether it was Devontae Freeman or Latavius Murray or there's somebody else that I'm forgetting. They've had a lot of different reclamation projects over the years that they've had success with. That offense is going to be high scoring. I think, especially if this J.K. Dobbins situation drags on a little bit, Melvin Gordon becomes a very interesting late round pick. The other name there that's interesting to me, you guys might be a little surprised, is Cole Beasley.
Okay.
Cole Beasley, no, seriously, Cole Beasley playing the slot where Daniel Jones is comfortable throwing, reunited with Brian Daboll, his coach, his offense coordinator in Buffalo for 4 years. I know they have 8 billion slot receivers in New York.
so
I know.
strange.
You
I
feel
know
a Cadillac Escalade with them.
they do, but Cole Beasley was retired. Basically, and then he came back to the Bills a little bit. But I had heard a rumor last year that Daboll called Cole Beasley last year and said, and I think this was at the beginning of the year, hey, I'm going to New York. Come with me. You're going to catch 100 balls. This is a rumor that I heard, not from Daboll. I heard somebody said this to me. Yeah. And, come to New York, you catch 100 balls with me. You know what I mean? And Cole's like, no, I'm going to wait it out, whatever. And then ultimately ended up, signing with the Bills and did whatever. And wasn't he with the Bucks for a minute, as well?
Yeah,
I feel
very
like.
weird roundabout.
But anyway, the fact of the matter is that he's somebody that has had a lot of success with Brian Daboll, and that while, yes, the Giants have 8 billion slot receivers, they don't have a lot that have the track record that Cole Beasley does in the NFL. And so, again, their big offseason signing was Darren Waller, right? And, I don't know that you feel great about Sterling Shepard's health. Obviously, he's struggled. So I'm just saying, it would not shock me if we're in the middle of October and we're talking about Cole Beasley as a reasonably useful PPR wide receiver 3 or 4. That's all I'm saying. We're talking, whatever. There's a list of, whoever's, right? Who knew Jimmy Graham was still playing?
He was
the
for
biggest,
years.
The biggest thing about that
was
is
flying planes.
Those kind of signings, it just serves the purpose of he's alive and well and
yes.
he's still doing okay.
Literally flying planes.
I legitimately thought when I saw the notification, this is a true story. I don't mean to be disrespectful because Jimmy Graham is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when I saw the notification, I'm like, oh, that's nice. It's gonna be a one-day contract.
Everybody
They're gonna retire his jersey. He's gonna retire as a Saint. That's right. That's how it should be. And they're like, wait, oh no, they want to play
practicing.
football.
Yeah, he's in the red zone packages.
What? What? Do they understand? We have Juwan Johnson chairs over here.
Did you think in your head, no way, Monfrere?
No, yeah, I did.
No way,
It's no
Monfrere.
way, Monfrere. I will also say this, and the last thing I want to say here is our producer, Damian Dabrowski, my dear friend Damian Dabrowski, who worked with me at ESPN for so many years, and I'm in many leagues with him, including a dynasty league, is the world's biggest Andy Isabella fan. His dynasty team was named after Andy Isabella for years. Years and years and years. There's no, other than Mama Isabella, and it's close there, who loves Andy more, Damian or Mama Isabella? And I'm just telling you right now, That signing was notable to one person and one person only, and his name's Damian Dabrowski. Not even Andy Isabella thought he was getting signed. But Damian Dabrowski is very exciting. So other than Damian, literally it does not matter.
All right, that wraps up quite the
Do you
crew.
disagree?
No, not at all. Listen, Dalton Kincaid's playing the slot for the Bills.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yes.
And they
As
have
he should
Shakur
be.
there as well.
Yeah, they
a
have
little
quite
bit.
a few slot
Right.
options.
And honestly, I think they're going to go. Kincaid's the slot guy, but Dawson Knox is still going to be the traditional tight end.
For sure.
They're going to play 12 personnel, like a lot this year.
Yep.
And Kincaid's going to basically be a slot receiver, and Dawson Knox is going to be like the tight end that he was last year. And then you've got Diggs and Gabe Davis on the outside.
Sorry,
right?
Andy Isabella, but we just kind of wrote you out of the offense entirely. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, he's like, I'll be amazed if he makes
There's no one
the
arguing
team.
here. Yes.
I'll be amazed if he makes the team.
We're going to end the show so I can ask Damian Dabrowski where this
Well,
Andy
yeah,
Isabella
the origin
infatuation
story.
came
The
from.
origin story of the UMass great Andy Isabella. That's it
be
for
happy
us.
to tell you.
You will be in Canton when we are back on Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Thursday night, NBC and Peacock announcing the Ride or Die on Football Night in America.
Andy Isabella.
We are back, baby.
it is.
Andy
Spoiler.
Isabella not on the list.
Spoiler alert, it's Andy Isabella. No way, Monfrey.
Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.